Start the recording. Okay, thank you for coming to our online reading sessions of the book, The Media Mission of Srila Prabhupada. So we start with the invocation prayers. Om Gyan Tinam Saganam Janashalakya. Chakshurmanmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Drishta Avadare Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Ramaya Vishnu Padaya Krishna Drishta Swami Sans Gauravani Pracharya Nirvishesha Shunyamati Pashyati Krishna. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Karati Vachalam Mangalam Nati Nimitta Padamam Shri Gadadhar Padamam Guruve Gaurachandraya Radhikaya Tadare Krishna Bhaktaya Tadbhaktaya Namo Namaha. Yasya Deve Parabhaktir Yatha Deve Tatha Guru Pastite Katitaya Yatha Prakashante Maha. Yota Pravishnam Mamachanam Prasutta. Sanjeevayatya Akila Shakti Dharasya Dhamna Nyam Chasya Sakna Shravanatu Gadi Pranamo Bhagavate Puchaya Chipuripanyam Krishna. Vichindo Pariyata Prityageha Danda Samsara Pupaha Propachana Sukabdo Manchena Samsa Vishwabhuche. Hare Krishna. So welcome to our session. We'll start our reading. Yes, Prabhu, Paramatmananda Prabhu, please start reading. Little Miracles.
Hare Krishna, Pranam Prabhu.
Sorry to devotees to keep you waiting. Yeah, thank you.
Am I audible, Prabhu?
Yes, please.
Okay. Little miracles. The great miracle that was the worldwide Hare Krishna explosion was helped along by a series of little miracles. Apparent coincidence that showed the hand of Krishna guiding Srila Prabhupada's life. Prabhu, can you please zoom a little bit?
Okay, 1 second. Is it okay?
Yes, Prabhu. Okay.
You want more?
When
Okay, I think this is fine.
Yes, fine, bro. Yes. When he first needed an editor, a university instructor of English came for word to assist. Reference 2535.
Oh, 1 second. This. Oh, because it is so big, so it is creating problem for me here. ऊपर जा ही नहीं रहा है, मुझे कुछ करना पड़ेगा. I'm okay.
This refers to Howard Wheeler, later Hayagriv Das, C. Satsarup Das Goswami, Srila Prabhupada Lilamrit, Chapter 18, Breaking Ground. When he needed a typist appeared. Reference 2536. Refers to Neil, a college student. See one paragraph below. When an architect was needed for the Bombay project, a young, inexperienced architect with no immediate intention of becoming a devotee happened to show up. Srila Prabhupada immediately initiated him, set him to work, and empowered him so that his designs were perfect. Reference 2537 refer to Hans Kellman, Saurabh Das, Sri Satsarup Das Goswami Srila Prabhupada Lilamrit, chapter 39, I will build a wonderful temple for you. When Srila Prabhupada needed a scientist to train for challenging the scientific orthodoxy, a chemistry PhD student visited and Srila Prabhupada captured him with love and sound philosophy. Reference 2538. refers to Tudam Damodar Singh, later Swarup Damodar Das. See Satswarup Das Goswami Srila Prabhupada Lilamrit, chapter 52. I have done my part. More about the typist, New York City, 1966. Prabhupada dictated tapes and we transcribed them. Everyone took a try at transcribing. We all found it tedious and we were not making much progress on it. Prabhupada was doing more and more tapes. Next page. And this became a problem. Hayagrivi was the best typist, but he was going to teach in the university. The one day Neil from Antioch College worked in the storefront. At Antioch College, you can work at a job and get college credit for that job if it has something to do with your study. Neil came to New York wanting to work for the Hare Krishna organization for a semester. He didn't know what we were doing. I asked him, "What do you do?" He said, "I am a typist and a transcriber." I said, "Okay." It was like the answer to a prayer. There were many little miracles. Everything with Prabhupada was always accompanied by little miracles, one after the other. Reference 2539. Satyarup Das Goswami in Prabhupada Memories, Volume 3. See also Srila Prabhupada Lilamrit, Chapter 21, Beyond the Lower East Side. Nail raised through those tapes, transcribing, he finished Bhagavad Gita, the nectar of devotion, teaching of Lord Chaitanya, and the Sri Ishopanishad. When his semester ended, he left and we never saw him again. But he had done so much and it was just what was required. Reference 2540, Brahmananda Swami in Prabhupada Memories, Volume 3. It was all
Wow.
divine serendipity, the gracious hand of Krishna easing Srila Prabhupada along the path. Yes. Divine serendipity. Social historians have noted that the arrival of Srila Prabhupada and Krishna consciousness to New York City in 1965, just when the youth of America were experiencing a spiritual crisis. The hip search for meaning beyond matter could not have been better timed. In other words, even from the mundane historical point of view, Srila Prabhupada's coming to America in 1965 seemed truly providential. It was Krishna's arrangement for inaugurating the Hare Krishna movement in the Western world. Reference 2541. Satswarup Das Goswami, our Lord and Master, His Divine Grace. Sri Vyas Puja, 1976. The Hare Krishna movement probably needed exactly the circumstances which Swami Bhaktivedanta found in the New York of the early 70s to develop. Reference 2542. Klostermare, The Education of Human Emotions, ISKCON Communication Journal, Article 4.1, June 1996. Considering that not a blade of grass moves without the will of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, reference 2543, Bhagavad Gita 7.21 purport. It must be taken as an orchestration of divine serendipity that Srila Prabhupada repeatedly arrived in the right place at the right time. Prabhupada came at a perfect time in history and went to the right place, the Lower East Side of New York, and then again in Haight Ashbury, just when the hippie movement was big, but they were looking for spiritual life. Reference 2544 Conversation 20th June 1974 spoken by Satsvarup Das Goswami. Several writers have noted how the timing of Srila Prabhupada's arrival in America was to prove opportune. Samapriya Devidasi, an inquisitive search for the truth swept like a deluge over the youth of America in the 1960s, accepting the lifestyle we inherited from our parents to live in a mundane society with mundane goals was not an option for the youth of the 1960s. Maya was also at work, and the innocent quest of a generation found refuge in her allurements: drugs, sex, and rock and roll. Reference 2545.
I think it is Gurudas Prabhu's book. There is a book. Okay.
This paragraph is from Samapriya Devidasi, The Divine Love Trip, Kindle edition. And thus, Tamala Krishna Goswami noted, Srila Prabhupada arrived in the midst of a storm of great discontent, in which millions of young people were questioning and often demanding the removal of established traditions, but it was a negative rebellion, lacking meaningful direction. There was justification for their dissatisfaction, but without positive alternatives. The result was simply widespread frustration and disappointment. Then Srila Prabhupada had come. He came not with the false promise of hope or with a self-concocted mysticism. He had brought a genuine, timeless solution in delivering the message of his spiritual forefathers. Srila Prabhupada, unlike America's leaders, was not confused by the menacing face of youthful rebellion. Instead of wasting time with planning, commission, drug rehabilitation schemes, alternative education, military draft, and prisons, he was applying the age-old counteractive Krishna consciousness, and invariably, if someone took the medicines, it worked. Reference 2546, Tamale Krishna Goswami, Servant of the Servant, chapter 13. Satsvarup Das Goswami analyzed, you arrived in the West at age 70 at a unique moment in the social history of the United States, when thousands of young Americans were open to spiritual experimentation and were renouncing the standard values of materialism as taught by their parents and government. If you had come a decade earlier or a decade later, you would not have found an audience as receptive to your radical proposal to drop out of the rat race for material success and embrace a life of very accessible ecstasy in service to all attractive Supreme Personality of Godhead. Lord Krishna sent you at the perfect time to start the Hare Krishna movement in the West. Reference 2547, Satsvarup Das Goswami, Vyas Puja offering 2012.
Now, here, see, there is a radical proposal to drop out the rat race for material success and embrace a life of very accessible existence. So now the reverse scene is reverse. This is considered as the radical proposal. But now, if you say that we want to follow Prabhupada, that itself is a radical proposal. Follow Prabhupada as it is, that is a radical process. You should adjust according to the 21st century and redefine Sri Dharma, redefine preaching aspects, outreach, redefine Prabhupada's books. So we have to redefine everything. Wow. All for preaching. Okay.
Shall I continue, bro?
Yes.
His his move to New York was as if perfectly scheduled. Just prior to Prabhupada's arrival on the Lower East Side, tremors of dissatisfaction and revolt against the Kali Yuga culture itself began vibrating through American society, sending waves of young people to wander the streets of New York's Lower East Side in search of something beyond the ordinary life, looking for alternatives, seeking spiritual fulfillment. These young people, broken from their stereotyped materialistic backgrounds and drawn together now on New York's Lower East Side, were the ones who were by chance or choice or destiny to become the congregation for the Swami's storefront offerings of kirtana and spiritual guidance. Reference 2548. Satswarup Das Goswami Srila Prabhupada Lilamrit Chapter 18 Breaking Ground. Robert S. Ilwood, professor of Oriental Studies at the University of Southern California, saw Srila Prabhupada's window of opportunity as being down to a matter of months. Swami Bhaktivedanta arrived in New York in the fall of 1965. From the Krishna consciousness perspective, one could well regard that time of arrival as highly provincial, for considering all the cautions appropriate to historical speculation, it seems that had his mission in this country commenced even a few years, possibly a few months earlier or later, it would have been far less fruitful. Bhaktivedanta's timing caught the powerful rising tide of what was called the counterculture, which included within its spectrum of concerns a fascination with India and an exceptional openness to exotic consciousness expanding spirituality. Reference 2549 R.S. Ilwood, ISKCON and the Spirituality of the 1960s in David G. Bromley and Larry Shinn at Krishna Consciousness in the West, page 102, Lewisburg, Bucknell University Press, 1989. When first getting a place of his own in New York City, Srila Prabhupada wanted an upper class location, but he ended up in one of the worst districts. Reference 2550, see Conversation 23 June 1977. But actually that was the right place to be, because there were many young people at that time in the East Village who were searching for something. Reference 2551, previous reference. This statement was spoken by Tamala Krishna Goswami. He appeared to give the right message to the right people at the right time. Reference 2552. Hindol Sengupta, Sing, Dance and Pray, page 85. These were the dropouts, the misfits, the protesters, the hippies, and the students who wanted something different in their lives. Reference 2553. Previous reference, page 136. They sought refuge from an American dream that was crumbling quickly in suburban wastelands and urban hot hothouses,
Houses.
as well as the jungles of Vietnam. Reference 2554. Previous reference, page 138. There is the desire for a different way of life, a different way of thinking, of freedom from oppression of society and government, and even the economic system. Reference 2555. Same as previous reference, page 84. In short, Swami Bhaktivedanta had landed in the middle of one of the great cultural moments of the 20th century. Reference 2556. Same reference, page 138. Underground journalist Peter Legere, who had pseudonymically written Save Earth Now, an iconic 1966 article about Srila Prabhupada, reference 2557, Irving Shushnik, Peter Legere, Save
Irving,
Earth Now. Huh?
Irving, Irving Shushnik.
Irving Shushnik, Peter Legere, Save Earth Now, The East Village, Other, article 1.22, 15 October to 1 November 1966, reprinted in BTG, article 48.4, 2014. Later, Neminicate, I was struck I was struck by his sincerity and strength of purpose, but I remember as he spoke thinking that he had a huge mountain to climb. He was speaking about such an alien culture, something so high and something that would be so difficult to give others, especially because people in America don't have the background, the training, but then it hit me and it gave me chills. Here he was in the East Village. By divine providence, he was brought to this area where he would actually have a chance. Nowhere else and in no other time really could this work. But now in the East Village, there was a possibility and I immediately envisioned him as a surfer. He got on the wave and he rode it. The wave was hippydom, and Eastern thought and mysticism were part of it. We were all interested in it. So he was brought here, where people would be anxious to hear what he had to say. Reference 2558. Peter Legere quoted in Satyaraja Das, Srila Prabhupada's Transcendental Otherness, BTG, Article 48.4, 2014.
Okay, Prabhu. Hare Krishna. Thank you. Other devotees can be. Okay. Hippies soon became numerous and starkly visible throughout the developed world, especially the Anglosphere. They were mostly privileged middle class youth, baby boomers, who were sick both of the materialistic lifestyle of their parents, whom they saw as meaninglessly, mindlessly working hard for tinsel rewards, and of all the conflicts and violence that were seemingly endemic to America, both at home and in the wars it spawned elsewhere. Quote, they were all young in their 20s or early 30s, and they were all seeking more than what their immediate surroundings and culture were able to offer. Unquote. Reference 2559, Hindol Sengupta, Sing, Dance and Pray, page 102. Looking to possibilities beyond the American dream, these idealistic, quote and unquote, flower children were peaceful revolutionaries seeking a new approach to life, confident of changing the world by living a loving alternative to the mess it had become. They believed it. They believed that. Hmm. Now, the same thing is happening for the Islam. This whole thing is repeating in the Western world in the name of Islam. Previously, it was hedonistic culture. Now, the whole thing is changed to Islamic culture. The children, small children, they are becoming jihadis, more or less, like mm, changing everything, going to countries, conquering the people, conquering their lands. So they're trying to do like this. They're terrorizing the whole world. They believed that there is a revolution coming. It will not be like revolution of the past. It will originate with the individual and with culture, and it will change the political structure only. Its only as its final act. It will not require violence to succeed, and it cannot be successfully resisted by violence. This is revolution of the new generation. This is Prabhupada's movement. Front cover blurb to the Greening of America, a 1970 hippie classic by Charles A. Rick. The whole hippie lifestyle was in conscious non-compliance with all that hitherto had been unquestioningly accepted a proper and desirable, and the hippies delighted in shocking and perplexing the older generation. This particular thing is happening in Iran. They want to they want to change the Islamic regime. This is what is happening there. Conventional clothing was replaced by long hair and beards, beads, headbands, feathers, miniskirts, leather jackets, and magician robes. Anything went. Many women and some men wore flowers in their hair. It was an anti community that was searching for a new reality. The tools of the search were drugs, sex, music, and alternative spirituality. The architects of the newly minted hippie movement preached and believed that music and drugs, particularly LSD, opened new avenues of perception by which people could expand their consciousness. The quote and unquote new music included the bards, the Beatles, the Grateful Dead. It was thought that their music heralded a radical change in consciousness. The music was best appreciated when the mind was expanded to drug use. Wow. Mukunda Goswami, Miracle on Second Avenue, Chapter 12. This unofficially declared rebellion stood against the establishment, orthodoxy, or anything resembling authority, government, churches, institutions, police, parents. Nationally, it was a time of a social turbulence, discord, and mistrust, epitomized by racial struggle, the Vietnam conflict, and assassinations of popular public figures. Yes. Dissatisfied with Western materialism, masses of American youth dropped out for mainstream society, looking for alternatives, especially in the Eastern spiritualism. 2562. Nothing, I don't see. This is the way Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's movement can spread in every town and village. That will happen in China, that will happen in everywhere. Yes. And thus arose the hippie counterculture, a happy go lucky, quasi spiritual mishmash of anarchic anarchic individualism and communalism with a quest for differentness and with no definite creed, bubbling with youthful energy and hope. It was a brash yet a peaceful rebellion against the ordinariness. Quote, the joyless, stultifying blandness of mainstream American life, unquote. You have to really blend into the culture, then only you will know the meaning of that. Hendrik Hetzberg, quote, 1968, the year that changed America, The Guardian 2018, link. And the social conventions imposed by, quote unquote, the system, intentionally, committedly lacking cohesiveness and organization, the rebellion nevertheless, sometimes refeed as huge, quote unquote, flower power demonstrations against the Vietnam War or racial injustice. But the thrust of the counterculture was a passion for discovering and exploring radical alternatives in the ways of living, and in music, art, fashion, and poetry. Quote, it was the time of Bob Dylan, Andy Warhol, and Allen Ginsberg, a time of great ideas and churning. Unquote. 2564. Indol Sengupta, Sing, Dance, and Pray, page 90. Fermenting with a quest for authenticity, individuality, originality, hippie life was characterized by free sex, long flying hair, colorful robes, quote, a kaleidoscopic wildly imaginative explosion of rock and roll, unquote. 2565. But this is too technical of a hippie style. Same reference. Garish, psychedelic art, illegal drugs, constant tension with the fuzz, that's the police, quote and unquote, and the incongruous melange of hedonism and self-defined Eastern mysticism. Ooh. Consciousness was a buzzword. Consciousness was a buzzword. Wow. Each hippie was his own individual search in the charted realm of quote and unquote mind expansion, taking assistance from psychotropic substances and eclectic reading of previous savants on the mystic trail. Their search was haphazard, experimental, and anything but rigorously philosophical. Too lazy and superficial to undertake any serious study of philosophy, the hippies contented themselves with quote and unquote profundities such as quote, tune in, turn on, drop out, unquote, quote, if it feels good, do it, unquote, quote and unquote, go with the flow, quote, do your own thing, make love not war, and never trust anyone over 30. Wow, what a words. Distribution with the materialistic West, the hippies now looked to the spiritual East. Books such as Hermann Hesse's Siddhartha, Ellen Watts' The Way of Zen, Ram Das's Be Here Now were standard fare, introducing eager seekers to the potpourri of Eastern mysticism. Many hippies had become vegetarians and were practicing yoga techniques, particularly due to the influence of Yogananda's autobiography of a yogi. How many devotees read this autobiography of a yogi? Somebody read this? I don't know, somebody read. I never read it, but I knew it. Uh, some were at various levels of seriousness, looking for a guru. A few had been a special spiritual quest to India. Mm, you had been to India. Haigrevadasa, at the time, Howard Wheeler, recalling his return from a spiritual search in India 1966, described Srila Prabhupada's unlikely arrival on this unlikely scene. A psychedelic New York welcomed us back. LSD had hit the street and excited the media. Everybody, it seemed, was dropping acid, taking trips, astral traveling, and reading the Tibetan Book of the Dead. LSD cults were springing up in the village and Lower East Side. Dropout students and professors were traveling to ancient sun cultures and living with natives, Shivites, Hochels, taking taking hallucinogens, consulting roadmen, shamans, yogis, and gurus. And now A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami suddenly appears in our backyard as if the whole chaotic stage had been deliberately, specifically set for him. 2566. Reference, I agree with that. The Hare Krishna Explosion, chapter 1. Yeah, I remember reading in that book like this. Confirming that the stage had indeed been set for him by Krishna, Srila Prabhupada stated that the hippie movement was created by Krishna so that Krishna consciousness could be established in the West. 2567 reference. Deena Dayadri Devi Dasi Srila Prabhupada Leelamrita interview. Benelux, Vyas Puja offering 1982. Whoa. Okay. Although short-lived, yes, yes. Although short-lived, the hippie revolution served the open minds and hearts of huge numbers of young people. For all its many lackings, it had lasting effects on Western civilization, and thus on the whole world. Its clamor for individualism and freedom gave impetus to the regularization of the Western mind, a seismic cultural shift of which prominent manifestations are relaxation of sexual and marital mores, feminism, gay rights, a widespread distrust of authority, one offshoot of which is proliferation of conspiracy theories, Barbary, and the whole New Age phenomenon. Srila Prabhupada was hardly a proponent of any of these, yet he was right there in the hippie heyday, giving another kind of direction to those unwise, otherwise intentionally directionless. Unknown to them, he was, as Harishavari Das put it, quote, the world's greatest revolutionary, 2568, is referring to Prabhupada over here. Conversation, 19 February 1977. What is this? Okay. Although Srila Prabhupada had hoped, the word get ushering in a revolution via knowledge, 2569, reference. See, Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 5, Text 11, quoted on. Although Srila Prabhupada had hoped for more attention from the establishment, 2570 reference, see government help. Okay. Although Srila Prabhupada had hoped for more attention from the establishment, he accepted the receptivity of the hippies as being providential. Yes. He relied on the potency of the holy name, vigorously preached to achieve the requisite effect, and the movement increased with extraordinary rapidity. Okay. I want to say something over here. This is much relative to us now, what we are preaching. See, here Maharaj is writing very clearly, or whatever quote is there, it's from what? It's from the last two sentences of this paragraph, are from Radhindra Swarup Das, cleaning house and cleaning heart. ISKCON Communication Journal, hashtag 2.1, January 1994. See, although Srila Prabhupada had hoped for more attention to the establishment, he accepted the receptivity of the hippies as mere providence, as being providential. So he only saw the receptivity of the hippies. He took that into consideration. He relied on the potency of the holy name, vigorously preached to achieve the requisite effect, and the movement increased with extraordinary rapidity. That is what we should do. So we should take that people are receptive, and we should vigorously preach our own thing, not that we should gel with them. Just like now, many people say it is the nice now time to preach in India because BJP is there, Hinduism favorable. So, okay, fine, but we should not bring down our principles to the standard of Hinduism, Hindutva, bring down the principles to BJP favoring. No, nothing like that. What we should do is the same thing what Prabhupada did. He took the advantage of that particular establishment of hippies, and that used that thing in Krishna's service. But what we are doing, we are trying to become more or less like them. We try to support so-called government, so-called BJP or Congress or whatever it is, whatever establishment is favorable for us, and we think that they will help us. No, they will not help us. They are all political. So this is I like this one a lot. This is clearly an indication for us. This very beautiful paragraph. You should remember this. He relied on the potency of the Lord, vigorously preached to achieve the requisite, and the movement increased with extra. After that, Prabhupada never preached to hippies. Only in that particular time, initial stages, hippies were there. But after that, there were no hippies. They were again preaching normally. So Prabhupada took advantage of the hippie movement and preached whatever he wanted to preach. He want to take advantage of the BJP or the government and preach Krishna consciousness as it is. That is what we can do. But otherwise, we should not gel. We should not become them. By associating with them, we are becoming Hindus. We are becoming BJP favoritism. What is this? I don't know whether I'm meaningful or not, but that's what I'm thinking in that. Okay. Another fortuitous event critical in enabling the success of Srila Prabhupada's mission in America occurred on 3rd October 1965 when President Johnson signed legislation that relaxed various strictures on immigrations from the East. This is legendary. Without this, Srila Prabhupada would probably have been denied the opportunity to stay in America, and the history would have unfolded differently. 2572. Much of this section in the first paragraph of the next is derived from Stephen J. Rosen, Gaudiya Vaishnavism and ISKCON, pages 390 to 393. Okay. Jagannath Chandra Prabhu, kindly continue and read.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, yes.
Adding a personal touch to serendipity.
Adding a personal touch to serendipity. Krishna's hand can be seen in orchestrating a propitious environment. What is propitious environment? For the birth of
They're giving or indicating a good chance of success, favorable environment. Yeah, favorable environment.
For the birth of the Vaishnava movement in
One
the
second. Yes. Yes.
for the birth of the Vaishnava movement in the West. The time was right for Prabhupada to appear in the West. The Lord had made the atmosphere favorable for spiritual thirst. Reference 2573, Jadurani Devidasi, The Art of Spiritual Life, page 197. The suitability of this environment, however, may have proven negligible in the hands of one not qualified to rise to the task at hand. A script may be perfect and the stage beautifully set, but it takes a fully dedicated and expert actor to bring a drama to life. Only by accepting immense personal sacrifices was Srila Prabhupada able to utilize the opportunities that the counterculture presented. They were not opportunities that he had expected or desired. In other words, all the external favorable conditions put together were not enough to get Krishna consciousness going in the West. It could not have happened without the touch of a divinely inspired Mahapurusha, reference 2575, 74. 74. Just as the Virat Purusha, despite having all the requisite elements, remained inert until the deity presiding over consciousness entered. Srimad Bhagavatam 3.26-10-70. Srila Prabhupada was a missing ingredient for bringing true spiritual life to the counterculture. As Tamal Krishna Goswami mused, how did one individual manage to launch a worldwide religious movement that was at once theologically and socially countercultural? Of course, followers within the movement answer this question in theological terms. Prabhupada was the chosen vehicle to spread Lord Chaitanya's message throughout the whole world in fulfillment of prophecies in scripture and promises to his guru. Historians and social scientists offer more mundane answers to this question. Prabhupada's success was largely dependent upon the existence of the youthful counterculture looking for exotic alternatives to conventional society, the growing popularity of Eastern religions, a band of zealous followers who gave themselves wholeheartedly to publishing and distributing astonishing number of books and magazines and soliciting gifts, and the Beatles' fascination with the chanting. Clearly, all these were factors contributing to the success of the movement. But the single most factor in the emergence and the establishment of this movement was Prabhupada. His extraordinary spirituality, his scholarly productivity, his boundless compassion, his ceaselessly energy, his audacious assurance, his sure judgment, his organizational skills. 2575. Tamil Krishna Goswami, Hare Krishna at Southern Methodist Church University, page 255.
When we think Methodist, we think of church only. Methodist means church.
Yes. Yeah. As Satsuraba Das Goswami put it, the time was right, the young people were right. The Swami made himself understandable and lovable. For nothing, something develops. Reference 2576. Yes. Satsur Das Goswami, Srila Prabhupada Smaranam, page 45. He was compassionate and intelligent in his strategies for capturing the hearts of devotees and bonding them to his person and his instructions. Reference 2577. Same as in the page 33. He was situated far above us, but he patiently fed us the nectar of Vedic topics and helped us gradually advance from our novice status. Reference 2578. Same as page 55.
That's so great.
Swami in hippie land, the 1960s, an extraordinary time when hundreds of thousands, perhaps millions, of American young people turned their back in contempt on the culture they had received and formed a counterculture energized by psychedelic drugs. A time of beans, flower power, acid trips, acid rock, free love, psychedelic mushrooms, and dropping out of hippies off together in communes or wandering the streets adorned with beds, beads, bells, and headbands. A time when tripped out explorers gazed at the world through chemically distended pupils and expanded minds. Reference 2579. Jayadatt Swami, Vanity Karma, page 8. Reference 2580. Swami in Hippie Land was the title of an article about Srila Prabhupada in San Francisco's largest paper, The Chronicle, in 1967.
Largest in paper.
Yeah, largest paper. Yeah.
Okay.
During the 1960s, everyone experienced a period of change, with a curious gaze toward the East, looking at all that it offered in the form of philosophy, yoga, mysticism, self exploration, gurus, and incense. It was in the either, and everyone could feel it. Reference 2581. Gunmai Devidasi in a bond of love. It was the beginning of the new age of Aquarius. Reference 2582. Quoted by Dr. Tilson Judah, Hare Krishna and the Counterculture, page 192. A time of seeking new purpose, direction, meaning, and inspiration. Reference 2583. Narottam Anand Dasa, Vyas Puja offering 2021. It seemed the whole world was waiting for something new. Reference 2584. Simon Frith, 1967, the year it all came together. The History of Rock, 1981. I will add the following link: rockpages.com.
Simon Frith.
Simon Frith. Okay, Simon Frith. Rocks pages. Okay, yeah. For something wonderful to magically transform everything for the better. Many believed that a fundamental change was brewing. One that would not just remake society, but human consciousness. That new values would emerge and take us into a saner future. Reference 2585. Jeff Tamarkin, 17 must reads for every hippie's bookshelf. Best classic bands. The link. The possibilities seem bright, unlimited, as expressed in songs like Imagine, John Lennon, 1971, visualizing a world of peace, born, homey, and harmony. But actually, Prabhuji, imagine this song. Guru Maharaj given a lecture on this song also, actually. Long way, 4 or 5 years. Yeah, before Corona, I think. Of course, it was simply imagination. Humankind remained fractured and contentious. Birth, death, old age, and disease continued as usual. And for all its high hopes, the counterculture itself was saturated with ignorance, illusion, and degradation. But the lives of some fortunate hippies radically changed for the better, beyond their imagination. For Srila Prabhupada was able to fulfill the spiritual aspiration of those who were genuinely seeking truth and could not find satisfaction elsewhere. Much of what Srila Prabhupada stood for appeal to the non-conformist, anti-establishment, counterculture outlook. Srila Prabhupada and his earliest American disciples had something vital in common, despite their vast cultural gaps. They understood the ills of capitalist society trapped in cycles of violence. Reference 2586. Hindol Sen Gupta, Sing, Dance and Pray, page 195. Moreover, his unabashed, unaffected uniqueness impressed the hippies because being the greatest paradigm breaker of all. Reference 2587. Goshta Bihari Das and Mahavishnu Priya Dasi Vyas Puja offering 2021. He far suppressed them in bucking the mainstream without even trying. Thus, it came to pass that unwittingly and in part through his natural affection for anyone who came to him, A.C. Bhaktivedanta became, in his own way, a part of the counterculture. Reference 2588. Indol Sen Gupta, Sing, Dance and Pray, page 99. However, the dutifulness and dedication that Srila Prabhupada sought to inculcate in his followers was practically opposite to the indolence, aimlessness, and degradation that had typified their previous existence as hippies.
Okay, Prabhu. Okay, Prabhu.
Who is Indol Sen Gupta? Any idea?
I think some scholars.
Okay.
So many people who wrote so many books. We are not scholarly people. I'm not a scholarly person at last. Okay, Prabhu. We will stop here and we'll meet tomorrow at the same time. Until then, thank you very much. If anybody want to ask something, say something. Because I spoke something in the beginning. If you want to ask, you can ask. Otherwise, we will stop here and we will meet tomorrow. Anybody has anything to ask? No. Okay. Hare Krishna. जगत गुरु श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय। कृष्ण भक्ति विकास स्वामी महाराज की जय।
जय।
और प्रेमानंद द मिशन एंड मोडर्न मिशन ऑफ श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय। हरे कृष्ण।
हरे
कृष्ण। पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। गौर प्रेमानंदे हरि हरि बोल। हरे कृष्ण।